Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to bring you day 4 of our 7-day Rise to Your Wildest Potential Using Systems Challenge. Ooh, today is going to be a good one. I've been really looking forward to today. I have a very special guest. I'm about to introduce her to you, but first myself, I'm Grace. I'm your systems guide here. What I love to do is break down big, lofty, amazing fantasy goals and turn them into tiny little digestible steps using mindset and systems to bring you past this feeling of stuckness, overwhelm, anxiety, all the things that you have to do to allow you and empower you to really get to the place that you want to go. So today is super powerful. We're going to be talking about finding your voice in content creation with our amazing guest, Cherie Trask.
Hello.
Yeah, this one's a good one. Cherie is a speaker, a writer, a book coach, a seasoned ghostwriter, and contributor to the One Habit book series. She helps thought leaders and healers write the book that's on their heart so they can impact the world. She spent 18 years studying the mind-body connection and speaks internationally on the importance of using mindset to move through trauma and give pain a purpose. Cherie is on a mission to help transform the hearts and minds of humanity so we can raise the collective consciousness of our world and truly be free to live unapologetically out loud. So welcome, Cherie. Thank you so much for your time today and being with us. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh yeah, so good. I'd love to hear your story. All the little pieces that I missed out, whatever you'd like to share with us, please do so now. Tell us about you and the magic that you've created for yourself.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to dig a little bit into how I found my voice in content creation, because I've always been, my whole life, I've always been open and very animated and out there with my voice. It's never been something that I've stifled. But it wasn't until I was 19 and I was sexually assaulted that everything changed for me. And it was this pivotal moment where I said, if I hold this inside, how many lives am I not helping change by keeping this silent? And I actually stayed quiet for 4 years. I didn't tell a soul. And the moment that I finally shared that experience, I shared it in a women's group as a speaker, and everything just started changing. I started speaking on more stages. I started sharing it on social media. And I will tell you right now, which we're going to get into this today, but there was a lot of backlash, especially from people who loved me, that I loved dearly. They did not understand how I could possibly share something so personal on this platform. But the truth is, like, I knew in my heart that there was no way that any of that happened to me. It was all for me. And it had to be part of the gift that I would then give the world. So my story all really started from a place of choosing to be authentic and vulnerable in my self-expression and not giving a fuck. Excuse me if I can't say that.
No, you're totally fine.
Okay. But just not giving a fuck what anybody else thought, because at the end of the day, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about them. It was about the people that it would help in their own healing journey, whatever that looked like. And I was very clear very early on that that was my mission and my purpose here. And I have not stopped since. So I have for a decade now been a professional writer. And I've done anything from blog posts to just basic content to social media posts to copy and multiple ghost written books, one of which was published with Hay House in 2018 with one of my authors. And I work in the space specifically of transformational nonfiction. So what that looks like is it's the woo-woo section of the bookstore, the personal development, mindset, spirituality, all of those things. And it really is all about helping other people elevate their consciousness, right? To step into a place of feeling empowered and inspired and knowing that we really are pretty amazing human souls and we can do anything that we put our mind to as long as we've got that fuel behind us, which again, we're going to talk about that today too. So that brings me to where we are now. And as a book coach, I guide people through writing their book in 90 days. And I just launched a course called the Storyteller System that walks people through my exact system that I take clients through that aren't ready or willing to invest in a coach or a ghostwriter. They can go through the system. And if you follow it, I literally have a 100% success rate to make it happen. So if you want to write your book, then write your book. Like,
Right.
it's up to you.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's where we are now.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I just want to connect with the
Yeah.
audience here. I know some of you, or a lot of you, have a message, have something burning inside. You know you have the story. You know you have these thoughts that come up and you're like, I just want to share that. That's kind of how we are as humans. Like, we've lived this life, we've learned our lessons, and we have a story to share. We have a platform, we have a mission. But so many of us kind of hold back. We're like, wait, like, other people are going through this. Who am
Mhm.
I to share my story? I'm not, necessarily good enough. This is vulnerable for me. And we hold back sharing our story, sharing the love, the message, the lessons learned, the perspectives we've gleaned. And so that's really why I'm hosting this conversation, and why I'm so grateful Cherie is here for us today, so that we can kind of break past that point and
Mhm.
unleash and really share our message with the world. So Cherie, can you tell us what was your greatest mindset technique for breaking past your former reality, from hiding yourself, from not wanting to share this story, this message with anyone, to being where you are today?
Yeah, so I was actually raised, and I'm so grateful for this. I was raised to always believe that everything that happens in our experience happens for us. My grandmother was very much of the Buddhist philosophy, and so I really didn't know any different. But the reason that I actually stayed silent had nothing to do with being afraid of judgment. It was, I didn't want to be seen differently. I wanted my life to be normal. I wanted everything to just be normal. So the mindset shift for me was really about sitting with the fact that nothing will ever be how it was, period. Much like the chaos that we're in the world right now, nothing will ever be how it was before this happened. And can that be the gift? So I really decided that being able to say, okay, it's not going to be the same as it was. So I get to mourn the loss of the person I was before the trauma happened. And when I do that, I get to fall in love with the person who is now post trauma and wants to really use this to impact other people. So that mindset shift, while it sounds very minimal, has a
Mm-hmm.
huge impact on what you're able to actually create in the world when you decide that
Mm-hmm.
you get to be bigger than your fear, and you get to stand shoulder to shoulder with everybody else who's trying their best to just be a human in this experience. Because let's face it, it's really fucking hard sometimes and it feels challenging sometimes, but we are the ones who get in our own way. So
Mm-hmm.
if you say, no, I get to be bigger than that. No, I get to choose differently and take radical responsibility for the role that you play, everything changes. It's
Mm-hmm.
such an amazing shift that can happen. And it can happen literally like that when you
Mm-hmm.
decide.
Yeah, no, I do share my idea, this picture with my clients, that like, we are a piece of art,
Mhm.
and we look a certain way now, but we have the opportunity to throw a splash of paint here to recreate our image. And like what you're saying now, it can happen overnight. It can literally be the choice, the decision to grieve and say, okay, goodbye, former self. Like, you've contributed to everything I am, everything that's happening in the world now. This is going to be our story, guys. Like, this is an exciting time to be alive, and we get to move past that, and we get to recreate and go in the direction that we want to go into. So
Mhm.
Cherie, just kind of, if you're willing to share with us, I'd love to dive into more of your personal life as well, because you're writing, you're getting your message out, you're speaking, you're contributing to so many people in the world. I see you active all the time here. Tell us, do you have like a morning or a evening or some type of ritual that you do that kind of locks you back into place, reminds you of your message, your story? Or is it just like this constant like heartthrob, like you have to share your message with the world?
I love that question. And it's actually a little bit of both. Um, I am so deeply convicted in my work and the reason I'm here. Without a doubt, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to help people with their vision and give it a voice. And that is so deeply ingrained in me. But as far as like rituals concerned, every night have a ritual where I'll put my hand on my heart and my other hand on my belly, and I breathe into the space of I am whatever that statement is. So I am
Yeah.
abundant, I am love, I am whatever that looks like, right? And I do that over and over and over and over again as I'm laying in bed, and it's usually what puts me to sleep. But it's one of those things
What a
that,
great way to go to sleep.
yeah, like being able to just really sit in that as you're sleeping, because our subconscious is working as we're sleeping, right? So what messages are you telling yourself before you go to bed? And then when I wake up, to have the same type of, purpose and why am I here? So it's the question that comes up in the morning when I wake up. What am I going to do with my day to day? Who am I going to be? Who am I going to help? Who am I going to serve? And being super clear that this life experience for me anyways is not about me. This life experience is about my service to the world and helping other people shine.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot that we can take away, and you guys can make this practice your own. You don't have to say the same exact thing, but think about, what do you want more of? What direction do you want to move in? Make that the thing that you contemplate on, you focus on as you go to sleep and as you wake up. Turn that into your ritual. Thank you for sharing that, Shuri.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to dive into more of the content aspect of where we're looking to go today. I'd love for you to take us off into how we can find our voice in content creation for those of us who don't feel like we actually deserve to share our voice, and then also for those of us who don't think we're good writers. Talk to us, share with us your magic.
Yeah. So am I diving into the system now? Is this a 3-point part?
Oh yeah. So guys, I asked all the speakers to kind of stick to the 3-point simplified system. And Cherie, you're totally welcome to do that now, or you can just provide us with your thoughts and then we can consolidate into a 3-point simplified system, whatever works really well for you.
Perfect. So the biggest thing that I will say when it comes to sharing your voice is, before you can do that, it's really important that you take the time to understand yourself. So if so many people, and I see this all the time, and I've done this as well, so please know that I'm calling myself out, share from a place of what we think people want to hear. We show up in a way of how we think people want to see us or how we want to be perceived. But ultimately, you are doing a disservice, and you're actually taking from the very people that need your authentic self the most. So the deeper that you can go into your own self-expression and your own understanding of who you are at your core, the deeper impact you can have in the lives of the people that you're serving. So no matter what industry you're in work, whatever you're doing in the world, you're here, I truly believe, with a divine purpose. And it doesn't matter if you're painting houses or if you're writing books. You are here to change something for somebody. It could be you walking down the street and your smile changes the day for one person. But whatever you're doing, however you're showing up, it should be the truest expression of your authentic self and have nothing to do with what you think people want, how you think you're supposed to show up. Show up as you, and people will come. Period. End of story. It's really that simple. And it takes work, yes, but part of this dance that we're all on is figuring out who we are. And that changes day to day sometimes, and that's okay. So granting yourself the grace to evolve, to change and shift depending on what's going on in your life, what you've learned. One of my favorite things is, you go through an experience in your life that feels maybe really quote unquote bad or uncomfortable, but taking those lessons from it. And chances are you're not going to be the same person you were beforehand, right? So being able to move into that space and be like, this is who I am now, and I love this person too.
I love that so much. One thing that came to my mind as you were saying that, I do believe that, first of all, everyone here has a very unique expression. There's no one exactly like you. No one with all of your previous conditioning, your story, everything. And so what Cherie is telling us is, find who you are and be that. But one thing that came up for me is also this whole recreation idea as well. What can you say to us about that, Cherie? Do you have any perspective on that, being an author, writer? What I know you work more in the nonfiction area, but there's also, I believe, something to be said about not just being like, who am I, but being like, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Do you have any thoughts on that to share with us?
Yeah. So a lot of you have probably heard of the whole concept of, how should I say this? Acting as if it is, right? So if, let's say you're not in like your best health or your best mindset right now, that's okay. You get to honor that space, and you get to continue to do the work to show up in the way that you want to show up as. So it could be that you want to have $100,000 in the bank, and right now you have $100. And you're like, okay, well, I don't feel abundant right now, and how can I shift that? So being able to say a mantra every day, or being able to like put money around your house so you have this sense of abundance that is going to bring you closer to that place of creating what it is that you want to have in your life. It could be partnership. You don't have a partner, but you desire to have one. So setting up your nightstand on the other side of the bed as if your partner is already there. What would be on that nightstand? Is there a place to put his or her water? Like whatever that looks like, creating the space for you to attract that in which you want into your life, and then start acting as if it already is. So it's not to say be fake. If you're in a shitty time in your life, you don't have to walk around like Pollyanna and everything's freaking rainbows and unicorns, because that's not authentic, right? But it's being able to be true in the sense of, things kind of feel shitty right now, and I know that I don't want to stay here forever. So how long am I willing to give myself to stay in this space before I shift? And when that shift happens, what do I have to let go of in order to make room for more yes, more good, more flow to happen? Because you'll notice like the masculine energy is the force and the feminine energy is the flow. And if you're in this space of constantly feeling like everything is force, 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 you're not living in your truest expression, in your most authentic expression. So that's a place for you to come back and say, what do I get to let go of? What do I need more of? And that could look like people too. And that could be really hard for people to say, like, you aren't serving me anymore. I appreciate the role that you had in my life while you were here, but right now it's not working. So just being, again, it's radical honesty. It's coming back to that place of, what do I want? Who do I want to be? And then acting as if, period.
Wow, powerful, powerful. So once you understand yourself, or you make that commitment to be your most authentic, expressive self, what do you suggest next we should do to kind of find our voice and create content, create our content?
Yeah. So I think this is one of my favorite places, and this is the being unapologetic phase. And this is the place where the more you are, the more relatable you become to other people, the more connection you have with other people, the more trust you gain from other people. Because at the end of the day, when we're online, let's just say, we're all seeking some sort of connection. And now in this environment where we're isolating, right? And we don't have that in-person human interaction, we're more than ever, my experience has been that we're seeking connection online, and we're trying to find the people that understand us, that we feel like we can relate to, whether it be their story, whatever. So the more you can be in your fullest expression, and being unapologetic in that, and just being like, yeah, this is who I am, right? You're going to continue to attract more of the people that understand you, that feel like home for you, your tribe, instead of these people that you're like, I don't know why I keep attracting Jane or John down the street. Like, they're not my people at all.
Yeah.
That's a place for you to look at yourself and be like, okay, so how am I actually showing up? And does it feel true? Or am I, again, going back to, am I trying to be something that I think I'm supposed to be instead of being me? So unapologetic is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me smile a little bit because it reminds me of dating. I've just heard so many people, and I've been that person too, being like, why do I keep ending up with the same person over and over? Guys, it kind of starts with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figure out who you want to be, how you want to be
Mm-hmm.
yourself, be unapologetic. about being yourself. Show up as yourself.
Yeah.
And then, Sheree, what else?
And then you get to practice vulnerability.
Oh,
This one's a good one
dude,
because so
this
many
one's the
people
hard
are
part.
like, I don't want to. That feels icky.
Yeah, guys, there's no magical solution. Even though I'm breaking this all down for you and Sheree's breaking it all down for you, there's no magical push the button and this happens. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
scary
wish.
sometimes.
It is scary. And what does vulnerability actually look like? It means having the hard conversations. It means having clear boundaries. It means asking for what you want and need and then allowing yourself the space to receive that. I know I've been so guilty over my life of not allowing myself to receive because I felt like that would make me weak or it would just be taken away, coming back to like core wounds, right? Like you'll see in the space of vulnerability the shit you're still holding on to, that inner child work that maybe still gets to be done, like all of this stuff. This is a spotlight for your shit. And it's the most beautiful place for you to grow and to heal and also serve. So, having those hard conversations and practicing with somebody that is a loving person in your inner circle. It could be your parent, your sibling, your partner, your children, being able to have those conversations and even prefacing it with saying, this feels really scary for me to say right now, or this feels really hard for me to say right now, and asking for what you need. So what I would like for you to do is to please silently hold space and don't interrupt me and just let me get this out the best that I can. And then you can have a conversation around it.
Yeah, we can start by practicing vulnerability in our day-to-day lives with just our family members, our roommates, our friends, because then we can take it to the next level, and start to consider putting pen to paper and start creating stuff and then sharing it with the world. What do you think of that, Sheree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the place it all comes from, right? Creation is coming from your experience. So even if, let's say, you're writing something that's not nonfiction, you're still creating from an experience because you've been inspired by something to write whatever it is that you're writing. So it's all vulnerability. It's all your experience, period. It's all personal.
How about for those people who know they want to talk about this stuff? They have these brands, they have these book ideas, but they just don't feel worthy. They don't feel like, do you have any ideas of where they can start, of how they can practice that? Like even beyond, these 3 steps that you gave us here and practicing vulnerability in our day-to-day relationships, how can they step over that ledge and really trust what they have to write and start putting that out?
So a lot of that actually goes back to your own personal work. It comes back to doing what needs to be done to heal old wounds, traumas, etc. So one of my favorite exercises is actually mirror work, which so many people talk about, but I think Louise Hay was actually the one who brought this up. I could be totally wrong on that, but I know she talked about it a lot. And that is having the conversation with yourself in the mirror, literally. So being able to sit in front of a mirror and say, I love you. You are perfect. You are worthy. You are enough. And it feels really uncomfortable at first, but the more you say it, you start getting confidence in yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's not up to anybody else to fill your cup, right? It is up to us to show up as our whole self so we can be whole when we partner with somebody, when we go into friendships, business relationships, whatever that looks like. It's not about somebody else filling that gap at all. You've got to fill that up yourself. So for me, I know after my trauma, there was a lot of storytelling around men take what they want from me and they leave. So this abandonment kept coming up for me, and that was my shit to work through. And so the biggest thing that I did at that moment was really journaling, and it was getting honest with myself about what was coming up. So what am I feeling? Where is it coming from? And not judging it. that is a big piece that I see people do, is that they get honest about how they're feeling and then they shame themselves for feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
But what would happen if instead we said, you know what, I feel really vulnerable right now, and this feels really scary for me to say, or this feels like a really scary place for me to show up, but I'm choosing to do it anyways because, again, it's not about me, it's about somebody else. And even though I feel scared, I know that I'm doing my best, and that's enough. And it's one of those things, I hate the term fake it till you make it. I really do. But also there's a
I
place
kind of
of,
like it.
right? I mean, some people do, but there's a place of truth in it,
Right.
because the more you tell yourself on repeat the same story, it ultimately becomes true. It's just the law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
period. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it works. And so if you want to feel better, you get to talk to yourself in a way that feels better, which self-talk is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like really listening to, what are you telling yourself day to day? Are you looking in the mirror and being like, ugh, I'm fat. Ugh, I don't look good. Ugh, I'm not talented. All of this, I'm not good enough, whatever it is, like that's a lack mentality, and lack can only bring more lack. So
Mm-hmm.
what if instead you chose abundance, even if it's not necessarily true for you right now, and you started telling yourself these things that you wanted to be or show up as, and then all of a sudden you start believing them. It's just how it works. I would love to say that that doesn't work that way and this is all a crock of shit, but it is how it
Right.
works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually kind of magical. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so energetic. It's so
Yeah.
magical. So really, really be careful to how you're treating yourself, guys, and
Mhm.
the words that you're using,
Yeah.
including, this kind of takes me to my next question, but so many of us don't believe we're good writers. Like maybe at one point in our lives, we used to write stories all the time as
Mhm.
children, or we used to journal a lot. But now that we have these brands or these businesses or these ideas, we just don't think we're good writers.
Yeah.
What do you have for those of us, Cherie, who don't believe that we're good writers?
Yeah. So there's a couple things to that. Number one, we're all writers because we write, period. It's just a matter of sharpening that skill set. Now, writing may not be your first skill set, right? Like some people, marketing, they're just wizards at. That's not my first skill. So being able to come from a place of, number one, acceptance. This may not be my first skill set, but I have a hand to write and a pen, and I have a piece of paper or computer. I can do this. And then learning, or my favorite, asking for help, right? Like if that is not your skill set, that's why people hire me, number one, as a book coach or a ghostwriter. A ghostwriter literally writes for them under their name, because it's not their skill set. So if you want to get better at something, it's like anything. What do? You practice, right? You continue to do it. So if you want to become a better writer, setting it up in your calendar like you would any other appointment, from this time to this time during the day, I write. And that could look like free writing, which is an amazing, amazing thing. You can also use writing prompts just to get your creative juices flowing. You could be writing randomly about nothing and none of it could make sense, but that's not the point. The point is to just get yourself into the practice of doing and then perfecting your skills as you go.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so much gold here, guys. It's like the first couple of times that you're like,
mhm.
oh, this is hard. Like this is hard,
Mm,
especially if you don't write every day anyways, or you don't even write hardly at all, except for to-do lists. It's hard, at first, the first couple of times. Do it a couple more times. You'll
mhm,
find that it starts to loosen up. Things will
mhm.
start to flow. And then for, those of us who, even though we might be good writers, but we're perfectionists, like, when is our work ever good enough to share? Like, even if it's like a vulnerable post, or if we're talking about, something like our passion behind our businesses or our story, like, when is it a good time to actually share that, Cherie? Like, when is it good enough to share?
It's good enough the second you write it, period. Um, I will say that the question that I would ask people if they're writing something and they're questioning whether or not, can I share this? Is this good enough? Any of those questions, know that that's just your ego trying to keep you small. It's your ego playing tricks. It's your ego saying you can't, you shouldn't, don't do that. You look stupid. In reality, you get to check in with yourself, your true core essence of who you are, and understanding, why am I sharing this in the first place, and who am I speaking to? So that why and the who, the service behind everything that you're putting out into the world, should be first and foremost. Because remember, your writing, your words into the world is not about you, especially on social media when we're posting for business anyways, right? The people that are going to read your words and who it's going to hit, and the people that you want to bring into your services or whatever it is that you're offering, they need to feel like they're understood. This isn't about them understanding you. It's about them feeling like you understand them. And you do that by the way you speak to them. So why are you doing it? Who are you serving? Everything else gotta go. The only reason that you're questioning whether or not you're good enough at all, remember, is your ego. It has nothing to do with your actual gifts.
Wow. Yeah, sounds a little bit scary at first, but guys,
Totally.
once you step over that little ledge, you will find so much more freedom and depth in who you are and how you can show up with your message to the world. I truly, truly do believe this. That was so useful for us, Cherie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, if I could, you being the expert here, the writer, knowing how to tap into your creative zone and your flow, and beyond that, knowing how to guide people in 90 days to create their message, their story in a book. What can you tell us about the balance in creativity, the creative process? For those of us who want to sit down and start writing, how can you teach us to really tap into that, even on a daily or weekly basis?
Yeah. So the biggest one is consistency. So putting it in your calendar, as I said, like, this gets to be an appointment in your calendar, like every other appointment that you have. It's a non-negotiable. If in fact you are truly committed to becoming a better writer, becoming a better creative, if you will, you have to have consistency. Also, it's really important that you stay integrous. So if you say, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it, that's where the snowball happens, and all of a sudden nothing happens, right? You don't get better, and then you're like, oh, that process didn't work. Well, did the process not work, or did you just not do it? Because nobody is responsible for you but you. So if you want something bad enough, you get to figure out what you get to say no to make room for the yes, to create the space for you to be in that creative flow. And for everybody, that's different. You know, one of the things that I tell some of my clients is, if you're having a hard time, you sit down and you're like, oh my God, it's been an hour. I've literally written 3 words and I'm reading them over and over again, and I don't know what else to do. Forget it. Close your computer. I'm out. I'm going to go do something else. Instead, can you get up and get the creative juices flowing in another way? Have a dance party, right? Like, give yourself a song and just dance it out, because you're moving energy. Or go for a walk, pull out your voice recorder and just start talking. Those things can be transcribed, you guys. So just start talking, get yourself out in nature, be wherever you feel super inspired, do that, and commit to making it happen. So if you have an hour block in your day and you sit down and you've got writer's block going crazy, then you still get to be in the space of creativity, but it might not look like sitting at your computer. So be okay with that pivot and then do that.
Yeah, more or less detached from the process, to more detached from how you go about it, and just create.
Yeah.
What have you found personally to be your creative flow hacks? Maybe, I don't know if I want to use the word hack, but what does writing and the writing process look like for you? Like, do you have music going on in the background? Do you have your windows open? Are you standing up? Like, what does that look like for you personally, and how did you discover that worked for you?
Yeah, so I discovered what worked for me by all the things that didn't work. Right? When I started doing a bunch of things and I was like, I can't write anything. Okay, stop doing that. Number one. But for me, it looks like I actually do this with my clients, is create your sacred writing space. So for me, that looks like opening my windows. I have my oil diffuser going. I have classical music playing. I have a picture on my desk of my sweet little niece who's adorable and makes me smile. whatever is going to make me feel good, I also need to be, whatever I'm wearing needs to feel good. So some people say, oh, you should get up every day and get ready. And that could be true for some people. For me, like, I feel awesome in my yoga clothes and I don't need to get ready for the day and put my makeup and hair on. So you just get to find what's going to feel really good for you to allow you to be the most authentic expression of yourself and do that every single time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. So first of all, just to kind of reiterate the different steps in creating content, and finding our voice in that content
Mm.
creation is number one, understand yourself. Who are
Mm-hmm.
you? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? Number two, be unapologetic in your expression.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, what Cherie taught us today is practice vulnerability. And I personally think that this is one of the hardest steps for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, for each leg of this journey, you guys are not alone and you are supported. And there are people who have dedicated their life and their work to supporting you through this process.
Mm-hmm.
So Cherie, I would love for you to share with us a challenge that you have for the audience today in creating content, in finding their voice in the creation process. What do you have for us?
Okay, guys. So I know that for a lot of you, this is going to feel absolutely terrifying, but I'm here to tell you that you are braver than you think. So I'm going to invite you to be super courageous. And given our current environment, what do we all need right now, right? We need connection, we need positivity, we need hope. So how can you be those things for yourself and then for other people? I want to challenge you to go live on social media and share with your audience what is coming up for you right now. So you're going to practice vulnerability. So it could be in the state that we're in right now. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm feeling whatever that looks like for you. And then you get to practice the reframe. You get to say, I feel all of these things and still I'm grateful for XYZ. I'm blessed because XYZ. And you get to share with your audience what that looks like. Because number one, that's going to make you relatable, right? When you're relatable, you create a connection. When you create the connection, people start to trust you. And when they trust you, they like you. When they like you, they buy from you. So when your offers do come, all of it comes back together and they say, you know what, she's real with me or he's real with me. And I want to be a part of that community. And I want to be able to experience all of the things that they're sharing with the world.
Wow. Yeah, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect what you
Nope.
share at all. Just be authentic, be yourselves. That's what the world wants to see. That's what we love. That's the real juicy stuff right there.
Yeah.
So thank you. Wow, that is a very vulnerable challenge. I wonder how many people are going to be following up on this, but I will,
Everyone.
yeah, I will be following up with all of you guys in the group to remind you. I want you to stick with this, to stick to this challenge because you're in this group for a reason. You felt the calling to be here. I really want you to follow through on these challenges. Now, going back to you, Cherie, I want to thank you so much for your time, for being here with us. I know that this time, especially in the month, is a busy, busy time for you because there's something that you're creating. There's something that you're doing. So what can you share with us about your work and about what you're doing right now that's been keeping you so captivated?
Yeah, so I just launched yesterday my online course called the Storyteller System, which is a 6-module course, 30 lessons, videos, an 89-page workbook. It's literally the exact steps I take with my clients to get them from start to finish of writing their book. I want to preface that by saying I am not a book publisher or a book marketer, but in the course, there are resources for what happens after your book is done. What do I do with it? So I'm super excited about this course. I poured my entire heart into it. And I've gotten great feedback. It's an amazing system. As I said before, it's 100% success rate. It's great if you follow it. And then of course I have my book coaching for those that really feel like they need that one-on-one support. I got you.
Powerful, guys. Don't hold back. If you have a message, don't hold back. Cherie, that is so exciting. Congratulations on your launch. This is going to be powerful for so many people. How can our audience find you? How can we learn more about you? See if you have material for us. How can we find you?
Yeah, so everything is just my name. Instagram, Facebook is Cherie Trask,
Mhm.
and my website is cherietrask.com. If you go to the work with me section, you'll see everything that I do, everything that I offer in there.
Got it. And do you have any content or any blogs or reading material that you want to suggest that you've created for the audience today? Anything that comes to mind in any of the work that you've written? Because I know you've written for a lot of blogs. Anything that
Mhm.
could be potentially impactful to our audience?
Yeah, so I mean, I post regularly, at least a few times a week, in regards to the writing process, what that looks like. So you can always follow me on social media for that. I don't have a blog that I put all this stuff in. Eventually, maybe. But also, if you are somebody who you know that you want to write your book and you don't know where to start, feel free to private message me. I'll send you a free ebook, which is creating your book outline, which takes you through the process to make that happen, because you absolutely have to have that to write a book if you don't want to lose your freaking brain in the process.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, guys. Now is the time. A lot of us are kind of at home isolating, and not isolating as in a negative way. Like we get
Yeah.
to go inward. We get to
Yeah.
create. So this could be the perfect time for you to finally get your thoughts and your words down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Cherie, thank you so much for your time. I think we're good to go now. I really,
Perfect.
really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Bye, love.
Bye.